Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Beautiful day, 1 week into September here in Sweden, so obviously you've got to capitalize before it's too late. Like, if I'm really lucky, I'll get a few days even in October when I can stand around like this, but quite soon it's gonna be dark, cold and harsh outside. So today I have a few different training and natural bodybuilding things that are relevant for me right now, so I want to talk them all over and drop as many golden tidbits as I possibly can while doing so. So first of all, I'm going to start bulking in a week, so it's time to push food and training forward in a more structured manner again. So I want to talk about what that's going to look like, what the focus is going to be, how I'm preparing and so on. I also want to talk about the progress I made this last year, the weak points I managed to bring up and how I did so. And then I want to talk a little bit in general about my systems for bulking and cutting. So we'll actually start in that end. You know, I like to look at things in terms of cycles or loops, if you will, because in this life there are many reoccurring cycles and loops of different sizes, if you will. So even the daily cycle, right? The sun is going to go up and it's going to go and it's going to go down again. 24-hour days that look a little different depending on when in the year, right? But then we have our week. There's going to be a weekend and there's going to be a new week again. We might have our specific cycle depending on how we work and stuff. If we're someone that works a 9 to 5 and we have 2 off days on the weekend, or if we work different times, but it's still a weekly cycle. Then you have the yearly cycle with the seasons. It's soon gonna be fall and then winter and then spring and summer, right? So the more you can look ahead, like if you're not someone that lives a completely unstructured wild life, you travel around or you have a completely random schedule, for the most part, a lot of the year is going to be predictable. So just having a plan, a system for how to best go about everything when the time comes is a good thing to do. And so now we're going to focus on the training aspect, of course. So the system I followed, it's 6 years now when it comes to bulking and cutting or natural bodybuilding, is right around now is when I'll start the bulk. Okay, so late August, early September, sort of. That's when I'll start eating in a calorie surplus and actively gain weight and just train in a more structured fashion. And I'm going to have well, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to know what the focus is. And then, of course, as you always do, going to do some updates as you go. But pretty much from around now is when I start to bulk and just push food and push training. And I'm going to do that all the way until the end of the year when I do a 5-day Christmas fast. That's been a tradition for me. It's not really, I didn't really come up with it in terms of like bulking and cutting, but it always ends up being, of course, 5-day fast, obviously lose weight. So that ends up being sort of a mid-bulk mini cut for me. I'm gonna lose up to 2 kilos of pure body fat when everything is said and done. And I say that because obviously you lose more weight acutely on the last day of a fast. But yeah, so it's gonna be effectively a little mini cut there. Then I'll pick up bulking again for 3-4 months, something like that, until early spring when I'll start cutting, which I'm gonna never have to spend more than 2 months of actively cutting on. And then during the summer, I'm gonna be maintaining. I'm gonna both train and eat a bit more intuitively. You know, I do, even within a structure, I use intuition quite a bit. What I mean, it's gonna be even more so that, you know, I might eat in a big deficit on one day and then in a big surplus on one day. And training, it's gonna take more of I'm gonna focus more on some skill goals that aren't related necessarily to bulking and cutting, like the muscle up. I focused a lot on these last few summers, really made some good progress this summer, right? But so it's both that I want to just enjoy being a bit leaner just during the summer and just, you know, not being, when training is to a big degree work, like it can be even for someone that doesn't work with fitness and training, as in work on the self. And I just like to enjoy, like, yeah, I'm going to be training still. I'm going to have some goals like the muscle up, but now it's more like for enjoyment. Like, for instance, I'll prioritize training outside with rings as much as possible, just to, you know, enjoy the summer, the nice weather, training out in the nice weather, you know, and also just not feel like I'm on this meal plan, even though if I'm somewhat intuitive, even when I bulk and cut, there's more structure, there are more musts, and just like eat a little bit just like I feel like, right? So in summary, it ends up being like around 8 months of the year is spent in this calorie surplus with that little mini cut fast in between. You're gonna be up to 2 months of cutting, the rest like about 2 months, a bit more maybe, for this sort of maintenance mode. And yeah, this is a system I followed for 6 years and it works great for me. It's just nice, you know, you want to, as a natural bodybuilder, spend the majority of the year in at least a small calorie surplus so you can make gains. And then, you know, you want to cut as fast as you possibly can. Not to say that it's always a good idea to cut fast, and you say as fast as you can so you don't have to spend too much time on that. And then it's not like you have to do this maintenance period, but I think it makes sense to just like get some enjoyment, get some rest from the like work part, and actually just train and eat a bit more like you would do just if you felt like doing that, right? So that's a system I've been following. And yeah, let's next talk about the progress I made this last year. So there are 5 main things. I mean, I made gains. There is a 6th thing. I made a lot of gains on the head, the hair, and all I had to do there was just not cut it. I haven't cut it in literally, it's a bit more than 1.5 years now since I went and had a haircut. But apart from that, there are 5 body parts that I felt I managed to bring up more, that could be considered weak parts in the grand scheme of things. But so, first of all, it's biceps, okay? It's always been quite a difficult muscle for me. It's hard to even explain why. It just has. It's like even when I feel like I've done exercise, I feel my biceps burn, I apply progressive overload. It's just been so extremely slow always. But so many times I found that as I get some of the things that kind of unlocks new gains and progress as a natural bodybuilder when you get advanced is they are a little hard to even put the finger on, because it isn't so much that, oh, I found this one exercise, oh, I changed my split and that just worked. Like when it comes to the biceps in particular for me, there's something I cannot quite put my finger on. There is a little bit of that I'm going to come to, but one part is just like, I just feel like I have overall better connection to my body, and I just think that I've used other arm flexors more than I thought before on certain biceps exercises, and it might be due to anatomy in part, but also I think there's just something with, now I can do the same exercises and I just connect more with the biceps. So yeah, because I'll say this, certain exercises, I've not had to think so much about where do I feel it or anything. If I just train to failure and apply progressive overload, the muscle that kind of should be associated with that exercise has grown. Biceps has been one, when I just like, you know, I progress certain curls, and then when I measure the arm, it's like, nope, there's no difference, you know. But so what I've noticed is that when I've gotten advanced enough, and there are these like sort of things that are hard, just better connection to the body. Usually if I just make an actual decision that, okay, I'm going to take this body part, I'm not going to just think what I've done up until this point will work. I'm actually going to see what can I do? Like look at it from the outside, like what has the process been? What do I think I could change to make it better? So the main things were that, well, preacher curls, I actually just deciding that I'm going to use them on my upper body day as a more, apply progressive overload in a more structured fashion. It just worked. Like preacher curls, I've always known they're good and I've done them, but something about approaching it in this way, it just worked well. So preacher curls, if I had to pick, I think it, for most people, is the single best biceps isolation to do, to just put straight size on the biceps. So yeah, that was one thing. Another thing was just to kind of question the exercises I've used before. I've done a lot of just straight barbell curls or easy bar curls and incline curls, and I like them both a lot in theory. The incline curl I like so much for the stretch. They always burnt a lot in my biceps, and I like to program them for people. Lots of people like them. For me personally, it just seems like, even though I feel it a lot in the biceps, it's like it's both been very hard to progressively overload, and during blocks when I've done it a lot, I just haven't seen too much progress. So either I would have to think about where I put it in the program. Maybe if I did a straight arm day and started out with them or something, it would be easier. But the way I've done them clearly haven't worked, so I kind of put that away. The straight barbell curl, when I do them now, it's this sort of that I talked about. I feel better connection to my biceps. I think they would work better. But what I did was actually do, since the length and bias training that I am a big fan of, but it's been quite trendy, I just decided, like, since the incline curl hasn't really worked out, I'll just go in the complete other direction. I do a spider curl, which is shortened bias, and I opted to do a bit higher reps. I don't remember what I started at now, but I got up to as high as 20 reps for spider curls. And I did some dumbbell curls, like, both with both sides at the same time and alternating. Like the alternating feels much better for me. It's much purer contraction, but the sets take so long. And so what I started doing after a while was like start out doing both and then kind of drop into alternating reps like that. And the third thing to say is just that I actually, it's not the third thing to say, I don't know but I added a third workout. So I have an upper lower push pull legs split. But so from Monday upper, Tuesday lower, Wednesday rest, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturdays push-pull legs, and Sunday rest. But these rest days have been misc days for me. So I've had different things. I've had neck, I've had calves, I've had abs, I've had forearms. But so on the Wednesday, it worked really well to actually get in, along with forearms, at least one biceps exercise. And yeah, I definitely saw the best biceps progress that I have for quite some time. So in summary, it was just taking progressive overload, just actually deciding I'm going to be very structured in how I progress. Not that I haven't been, I've always, but certain exercises I just need to focus less on it. But just having that intention worked. Playing around with some exercises that like shouldn't on paper be the most optimal ones, just seeing how they work for me. A little bit higher reps and upping the frequency. That worked really well. So the next thing would be the forearms. I started training forearms a little bit late in 2023, but especially in 2024 and still now in 2025. I just trained them more directly. Obviously, just a thing like training them more directly when you haven't helped. I've noticed, like I said, I think on regular biceps curls, my brachioradialis has tended to take over more than I thought, and I just now can influence it more just from better mind-muscle connection. But point is that that's the part of the forearm I felt I had to focus least on. So the main things, there are more things, but the main things, so we don't talk too long, have been wrist curls, because it's for this side of the forearm that I think is much, generally for most people, it's more difficult. More people are going to get that brachioradialis activation from pulls and curls, and the other side, not as much. So just lots of wrist curls, great for that. I've done pronators with my, Popeyes pronator from Golden Grip, 10% off on all their stuff with code uncommon. I'm going to mention, an honorable mention that I haven't made so many gains with yet. But yeah, the wrist curls, the pronations, and just general grip stuff. I have grippers that I progressed just in a higher range than someone that trained for pure grip strength, more like 8 to 12 or 10 to 15, rather than just 1, 2, 3 reps like that. And I've done grip stuff, just this grip hub. Just put this in. I even did for a while, I remember now, deadlifts just from I say grip training, no straps. It was actually like I'm trying to increase my 1 rep max with a pronated grip. One of the earliest things that I did that worked really well was a fat grip Sottman curl. So Sottman curl is when you do regular, you supinate on the way up, but then you switch to here to focus more to the brachioradialis down. Doing that with fat grips, it just lit up my entire forearm. And as I dropped to hammer curls after finishing it, man, just the entire forearm lit up. It was definitely a great, just overall forearm builder. Well, honorable mention, I have this forearm finisher now. That's just great to superset wrist extensions. Is just much better. It's way more awkward with a barbell, I always found, but then just convenient that the wrist curl that is all right with a barbell is a convenient superset. I'm sure just pushing these are gonna help. It's gonna be such an easy path to thicker forearms. Next up we have lats. So I don't know, it's interesting sometimes to think about if it's like a genetic weak or strong point you have, or if it just ends up becoming a weak point because something else got strong. Because I think my lats, I felt them more on certain exercises, and they weren't like disproportionately small earlier in my career, but I think I just strengthened my posterior chain and upper back so much that many movements that had been more lat focused, the upper back just took over more. So I noticed, for instance, that even a vertical chin up just was more upper back. It's like I managed to pull like this somehow more than pull the elbow down like that. Same thing with just a similar lat pull down with a more straight pull like that. So what I found was that movements when I really drive the elbow down, more than pulling towards me, drive the elbow down in front of me, not even all the way in, that's when I really could feel my lats activate. So L-sit chin-ups was the big game changer. Started doing them body weight, but later on weighted. It's not going to be, you're not going to get probably a straight arm completely. You're not going to get all the way up to here, but as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter. So getting strong on these, adding lots of weight, that really helped my lats grow. And diagonal angles, but not just. That's the thing. When I've done diagonal angles before, I've still pulled straight towards me more. It's been more like upper back. So same thing in a seated row with a high cable, so a diagonal angle, but instead of pulling straight towards me, I really pull down like that. Did a similar shift to a lat pull down, and I just pull over machine. I pushed, and it really worked for my lats. Next up, we have the quads. The quads, it really, you know, they were a strong point when I started training, but then I developed these hip issues. It's one of the injuries that wasn't like this, like something just snapped. It was, now I just know, not to talk too long about it, that it was a existing imbalance that just became more and more problematic as I got stronger, right? So my entire lower body has been quite paused these last few years. I could have pushed, if I just cared to blow up muscles with like leg presses and machines, I could have just gained size from that, because a lot of the problem has been with stability, but that's just not my way of bodybuilding. So it's been a very, very, very slow rehab process. But finally, when I started bulking last year, it was better than ever. So I was both ready to push progress more, but then I realized also in the same kind of thing here. Squats, when I didn't think too much about it, they always grew my quads back in the day. I just think I've strengthened my lower back so much and glutes that... that I became more hip dominant. So I really had to, with front squats that I just do because I like them, they're not really, if you get good at them, they're not really worse for quads than back squats, I would say. They would just not be the most convenient option for many, but there are many other good benefits that I won't go into here. But pretty much I had to back down in weight. I got lifting shoes, which I didn't have before, because I didn't seem to need it before. Like my knee comes out over the toes even without them. But clearly I just used more. I could feel it more in my hips. So I went down and really practiced on staying very, very, very upright. And one interesting thing was... I always had problems with keeping the bar here. And I got advice from someone to practice with lower weights and just think about how easy it feels, so how effortless it is for me to keep the bar in position. And it's incredible how well that worked. And this is one of the holistic bodybuilding, as I call what I do. On the bodybuilding side of things, these are the things that are like not so easy to instruct people on. Many things like this aren't just like, oh, this form cue will just fix it for you, or if you focus on this for long enough. Sometimes it's just having an intention. Like I'm squatting and trying to feel that it's easier, that the bar is here, without exactly knowing what I'm doing. Somehow that just happened, right? But so, when rebuilding my squat like this, it made my squat way more quad dominant. So that, along with pendulum squats and leg extensions to really get that rectus femoris, you know, can I show it here? Now it's dark, but you know, this head here on the quad, the leg extensions really target that. The last thing would be the abs. Now I'm not quite as lean as I've been this year, but my ab genetics are a little bit that I have these big upper abs that will stay around quite well even when I'm bulked up, and then, you know, I just carry more fat here and have less definition here. But from doing this, I have the lower, what did I call the lower ab solution. I think my video about it is a longer video, then I have a short of this. It's like a crunch in the hyperextension machine. It's really because of the angle, even though it's a crunch movement, it really targets the lower abs. And I feel like even though I'm not getting that like full 8-pack, and especially now when I'm lean, but not my leanest, but I just feel like the outline still though has gotten better from that. So that's pretty much the main areas of progress I did this last year and how I did it. And now let's talk about just what the bulk will look like. So first of all, you know, I have for some time now, since training, and even more so this last month, it's really been on the back burner, the training, to focus more on work and stuff. But now for a couple of weeks, I've been back to training like I normally would. But the goal is sort of, because I will lose a bit of strength doing it, like, you know, cutting weight and then training a bit less. It's not, I won't deteriorate in muscle mass, but especially on like bench presses and squats, I'll definitely lose some strength, right? And then a few random exercises here and there. So the goal up until now has been to just figure out where my strength is at. So I just know when I start bulking, I kind of know this is where I'm starting and this is where I want to progress from, right? But so one last thing I want to do before I start this bulk is actually I want to do a fast. It is for the bulk as well, just a little bit like lean out a little bit before I start pushing, eating more. But it just fits me well now. I've been working a lot. I've not been overusing my nicotine and caffeine. But I am proudly, it's not the topic at all, but I reduced my consumptions by 75% to 25% of the former, and I kept that quite well. I just feel like I've been quite stressed and taking in a lot of stuff lately. So this sort of fast, it's going to be a sort of dopamine fast. I'll not remove caffeine and nicotine completely, but I'll take the absolute minimum just to, go about some work with focus. And then, stay away from screens as much as possible. I might even go out on this island that I've done my little solitary fasts on before. And then, so how it looks like when I prepare for a fast like this, I'm recording this on Sunday now. I'm going to train upper body tomorrow. I'm going to train lower body. I train neck today, right? Lower body on Tuesday. And then I'm going to take the Wednesday to just eat, get some recovery. I always do this before a fast now, even if I will train on the fast, because I might on the last day. It depends on the fast and timing, but I always want to take one day of eating and not training before a fast, because in my experience I just always feel better. It seems like a waste to not eat, water the seed of gains you planted with those workouts. And I just always feel better doing it this way. So yeah, and then I'll start the fast on Wednesday evening, fast through the Thursday, fast through the Friday. Then on Saturday I'm gonna go train full body workout, just a minimum, like leg curls, squats, couple of pushes, couple of pulls, maybe some isolation. It's really just to welcome the body back. Training, I'm gonna start eating on that day, carb up a lot in the weekend. I'm gonna maybe not rest on the Sunday, it's just a neck on the Sunday, but then boom, on Monday I'll be fully refed, recovered from the fast, ready to crush that bulk. And so the last thing I'll say about this bulk I'll be doing now, last year I wanted to bulk big time. In my view, there are two ways to bulk really. Either lean bulk, it's like you kind of try to gain as little weight as possible, and as long as your gym numbers are going up, you are eating enough to to support the bulk, right? And then just if your gains slow down, completely stall across the board, now is when you want to actively up the food intake, watch the scale a bit more closely, that your body weight goes up again, and then just, as soon as your numbers start moving up again, that you're eating at a good level, right? You either do this or you just embrace bulk completely. Like, I'm just gonna eat a lot. I'm actually gonna gain weight faster than I think I would have to put on muscle, right? And this is something I'd recommend for like hard gainers, either quite skinny people or people like me that I'm not really a hard gainer to begin with. I'm somewhere in the middle with all of that, right? Like, never was super difficult or easy for me to put on weight or lose weight. It's somewhere in the middle, but as I've gotten more advanced, carry more muscle mass, and I'm just more active, just expend more energy, I sort of end up, I also notice that my body is quite metabolically flexible. Like, it adjusts so much to if I start eating more or less. It's like, I'm always amazed at how slowly I gain weight even when I eat quite a bit, and how slowly I lose weight even when I go into deep deficit. It's like, from all the fasting and experiments, it's like my body is quite metabolically flexible. That's just my take, or what it seems to be. But so, point being is that if you're someone that always had an easier time to put on weight, or you've spent time being a bit more overweight, there's no need to bulk big time ever. It's like, if you manage to get lean from that point, yeah, you can bulk again, but you're probably never going to be the person, unless you get really advanced or something, that pushes food very hard. So last year, I really wanted to embrace, like, I want to weigh more than I ever did, specifically for certain exercises like a squat. When I did high volume, I knew that was going to be beneficial for me to just carry a bit more fat and body weight overall. This year, I want to at least initially try to do it the other way. I'm gonna just up the food. I'm gonna go into a more structured way of eating that I can mention here at the end also. And just as long as I keep I look at the scale, but as long as my numbers in the gym go up, I know I'm good. Then if I start to see plateaus in some places, that's when I'm gonna actively up the food and watch the scale, make sure that I gain weight. But I went all the way up to 92.5 kilos for peak bulk this last time. I think this time, now, I weighed 83, the lowest this summer. Right now I weigh just below 85, like 84.5. I think if I can end up at 90 kilos when I'm finished with the bulk in like April or May, whenever I deem that I'm finished, I think that's going to be good for a good goal for this time around. So when it comes to the eating, it's just that I'm gonna link a few videos that are gonna be relevant to this video, because the Build a Fitness Diet 101, that's still the same base I use for my diet at all times. It's just way less, it's way more like flexible in the summer, but it's still the thinking, what I explained there, it's exactly how I adjust for cutting and bulking and maintaining. And yeah, I'm gonna put my training program, a video to that. Possibly if I have this video when I go over the bulking and cutting like system I have, I'll link that as well. But so what I'm gonna do now, I've eaten way more loosely. I try to make up the entirety of these 3 meals in a 8-hour eating window. That's been my base for a long time. Just that when I'm a bit more flexible, like for instance, the lunch is often split into 2 smaller, like protein and a few carbs, because it's just fast as I'm doing other things, right? But now I'm gonna add rice back to my eggs in the morning to get more calories, more carbs. I'm gonna do a little collagen and the juice shake that I take before the gym, just because it's one thing to have eaten before you train, like in a day, but with the timing of how I do things, I would have eaten like quite a large meal right before the gym, which I just don't like. So I'll have that small shake and have the big eggs and rice, honey afterwards. I'm gonna have something like rice and beef, you know, some vegetables, some pickled vegetables, a carrot or something, middle of the day, and my protein yogurt at night. This is how I'm gonna start it. I'm pretty sure that when I start, I can make this like a surplus, or at least, you know, enough food to be able to make gains. Then later on, if I notice things stalling, that's when I'll, around these 3 meals, start adding in some extra stuff. That's when I might even throw in a pizza or something here and there. That's the thing, guys. When you have mastered dietary discipline and you're advanced enough that it's actually hard to gain weight from just eating regular food, you always want to have a foundation of the eggs and meat and fruits and vegetables, some good carbs. You always want to have that as your like foundation for what you're eating, but then you actually have the luxury of throwing in a pizza or some candy or something on top of that, just to push into the surplus. It should just never be that this is all you eat. But man, yeah, a long video, but yeah, I'll say this. As I said, I like to think of things in cycles and loops and that. It's a kind of same thing with my content, that I'm not completely locked into one thing, but it just comes naturally when I'm gonna bulk and train in a more, like, I'm gonna think more about the training. So I'm gonna think more about training in general, which gonna make me think of more videos that are training related directly. Just like when I'm cutting and when I'm fasting, I'm gonna think more like that. So I'm gonna do more videos around that. In the summer, when I kind of don't focus so much on either, I'll think about all these other inspiring mindset or just philosophical sort of topics, right? So I never just I will drop something of everything here and there. But yeah, what I'm saying is that from this point, it's gonna become very much more naturally to me to do more training videos. I'm gonna start doing, I've done so long videos lately, I'm gonna start doing some shorter, more like condensed topics also. But since I'm turning a new leaf right now, I felt like, yeah, I'll just say everything that's on my mind around the training right now, and then we'll take it from there. So please, guys, I'll be very curious to hear any thoughts or questions you have about anything I said here, whether that's more details about the biceps that grew, for instance, or something about bulking, whatever, you know, whatever comes to mind. Yeah, I try to get input. I wish I got more input, guys. It's because I'll never do something just because someone asked it of me. But it's more like when people ask, it clarifies to you as a creator that, okay, this is something that isn't obvious for people, or yeah, I guess I could talk more about this thing from this angle, or expand more on this thing, whatever. It's very helpful, guys. So please like and comment, and do it either way. All comments and likes help support the channel, helps the algorithm, helps more people find their way here, so it's very much appreciated. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul, becoming that person that manifests a jacked outer because of the jacked inner that they develop in the process. Body, mind, and soul, jacked on every level. So if you're interested, you can send me a DM or on Instagram, or email me. It's in the description below. She's coming with a horse now. But please subscribe, more content, fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It's mindset, guys. Peace. And buy my book.